This is the KTM 990 Adventure R. Bred from the 2002 Dakar-winning motorcycle, this hardcore trail-slaying Behemoth was like nothing else on the road at the time, and put the frighteners up the class-leading Bavarians and their all-conquering GS. Early models were carbureted, but this 2010 R version packs in a 990cc fuel-injected V-twin, kicks out an impressive 113 horsepower. The factory WP suspension has an impressive 265mm of travel and an obstacle-defying 12 inches of ground clearance, rendering the stock bash plate almost redundant. It all sounds very impressive, but is it practical for an average rider like me with limited off-road ability? At least at 6'3", I'll be one of the few people who can actually get on it.
Hello Wales, you are beautiful. Fuel characteristics on this bike, they are a bit of a breeze to be fair. The engine is barely doing 4,500 RPM. It's a relaxed, comfy place to be. I'm on an enormous dirt bike, but I'm flying down the motorway in pretty good comfort. Wind protection at these speeds is very good too. You've got hand guards to keep the wind off your hands. The stop screen does do a pretty good job. There's a little bit of turbulence on it, which is why I switched to this raised garage screen. And then these enormous tanks keep all the wind off your legs. What these tanks don't do is hold a lot of petrol. So couple that with pretty abysmal fuel economy, and that means lots of trips to the petrol station. I am risking it here, putting E10 in my plastic tanks. They will be swollen to twice the size by the time I finish this little trip. And the other thing, by having two tanks, it means twice the faff when it comes to filling up your bike with fuel. They do look very Dakar-esque in my opinion. I think everyone here thinks I'm Danilo Petrucci. This R version has 265mm of suspension travel, which is great when it comes to absorbing bumps, but not necessarily brilliant when you're cornering. I tend to find the bike's just a little bit vague in corners. Front end's okay. Actually, once you're in the corner, it does hold the line very well. But this is going to be a trade-off for having such long suspension. Also on the brakes, a fair bit of dive. Again, what are you going to do? You can't spring a bike this high up and not expect to have some repercussions.
I came to Breckford to answer the questions I had in my head. Would the KTM be too much bike for me? And who's Kilforth? And why are all the byways named after him?
Looking very slippery here. Lots of fallen leaves. We are right at the end of autumn, so we are mostly rolling on a bed of leaves. This ford, which it doesn't look like much, but there's a surprisingly deep trench in it that you definitely have to avoid. So if you're ever here at Breckford, just make sure you stay left. When they designed the KTM, I don't think little leaf-strewn trails in Wales are quite what they had in mind. Yeah, this is definitely not necessarily its forte, but it's doing it fine. It's all right. You know, let's not give it grief. It is doing the trail. This suspension now, that long travel suspension, is just absorbing every bump. It's just lovely on stuff like this. This is what the KTM really likes. nice open, fast trails. Fortunately, there's not many of them here. You do feel very high up, which is in some ways not good, but other ways the ground's so far away it's hard to care about the bumps that are on it. I can just, I don't know, it just seems to ride over everything. Now we're getting rocky. Nice, we'll test it. Oh. The gears are a little bit long for this. I mean, all this time I haven't got out of first gear yet, and I'm probably doing 20 miles an hour now. But it's a bit too much power for this, but it is quite a lot of fun trying to keep it on the ground. Whoa, shit! Oh, there's a piece of wood I wasn't expecting. That binary feeling injection throttle makes it quite hard to sort of just cruise along at slowish speed, which sometimes on the trails are this mucky is kind of what you want to do. And I guess I'm a KTM guy now, so I've got to do everything fast. And rev low, rev loads.
Here is case in point for a bike that is maybe a little bit too big for the trails. When she starts to go, it really goes. And at some point I've got to try and pick this thing up. One thing I did like about my old bike is when I went touring and I took photos of it, it sort of blended nicely into the landscape. I'd park it up in a quaint little French village or be on an Albanian mountain pass, and it just looks like part of the scenery. Whereas this is the exact opposite. It's like an alien spaceship has just crash landed wherever it sits, right now crash landed in the middle of a Welsh trail. I do have my reservations about swelling fuel tanks and complicated servicing that I won't be able to do myself, but any practical concerns I have with the bike fade into insignificance when I put them up against the bike's character and how it feels to ride.
No, I mean, you can say lots of negative things about this bike. It is a bit too big for what I'm doing. It is a bit cumbersome. The injection is a bit scatty. It's definitely a lot of fun. You can't take that away from it. It is a lot of fun.
The KTM 990 makes me more excited to go for an adventure than anything I've ridden before. And for that reason, it'll be the perfect replacement to Big Bertha.
I wasn't planning to go this far for this little video, but I'm just having too much fun to stop, so I'm just going to keep riding.